So, when I was doing a deep dive on the fox and thinking about the state of PA and how you do have foxes, and I was thinking about July 4th, the last July 4th that I spent with my father, 2021, my brother had this huge picnic. And that's where the fox story started to begin as I was writing and diving into this particular animal I wanted to share with you today. But I had no idea that on Sunday, I believe it was July 19th. Yeah, July 19th, a video pulled up on my social media feed. Meaning, I'm a writer, I'm a healer, I'm working on a lot of personal projects of my own. I don't watch social media videos at this moment in time, just unless my angels, my spiritual counsel pulls one up. And one pulled up on Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. And I was like, well, I'll watch the first few minutes. And then the foxhole came up. And I was like, I need to sit with this message before I do the fox video. So here we are. Welcome to the Heather Ann Ferri channel. This is the Animal Wisdom playlist. Would love to have you a part of my community. So yes, it helps to subscribe. Um, Foxes, growing up, you hear about dogs and cats, horses, birds, but foxes was not something that I remember in a children's book. It's not something I remember in a movie. It's just really not something I thought about until July 4th, 2021. So I'm going to take you back there. And part of my storytelling for you today is not just to understand that when you're at the park, or you're sitting in your house and an animal's in front of the yard, or you're at the park and an animal just all of a sudden starts to sit beside you. I don't think it's a coincidence. What is the spiritual meaning? What's behind that animal? What's it related to what you're talking about? And so for me, because I'm such in deep love with animals, I believe they're great teachers and messengers. I want to show you how I'm working on my own projects and stuff, and how this fox story develops and moves into a video where Charlie Kirk is literally talking about the foxhole. And it's all interrelated to my spiritual journey, to my spiritual warfare that I endured in the last 5 years. These messages are for me. And so it's really important on this channel, not just the animal channel, but the other playlists I'm going to be creating in my talks, is I'm a teacher with real lived experience, both in trauma education, in healing, in spiritual psychology, spiritual warfare, which is very real that's going on right now, as well as healing the bloodline. So this is a deep dive, but who knows? Maybe you'll run into a fox in the next week and you'll think about this video. Or maybe in the next week, a little cat will sit beside you at the on the bench when you're in the park. Some people have been leaving messages. It's really exciting to have a new audience to the animal playlist. So welcome. We're so happy to have you here, because when you love animals, you value animals. We know, me and my spiritual team, that your heart chakra is opening or open. And some of the input messages, we're in spiritual warfare. They're demons. Demons are real. And I'm going to go into that in a different playlist that's coming up. I have a lot to say about that, in regards to church, in regards to new age spirituality. And I'm going to be very vulnerable and very clear about my experiences with both, and what I feel is how I'm going to move forward. And that's all that matters, because I have to show up every day for myself, and I really realize now I have a lot to share with both worlds if they're open to it. You have to be open. And I've been reading, I've been reading 1 to 2 books a week, writing a lot. And so one of the things is that I'm all about light. I'm all about unconditional love. I'm all about healing your bloodline. I'm all about getting Mother Earth back to a sacred place where the water isn't poison, the land is fruitful, and that people are not living in poverty or in evilness. That's my journey. So if you're a part of that, welcome to the Heather Ferri channel. I'm not looking for a following. I'm looking for higher conscious leaders and people that want to be leading their own life and development. People who want to learn, obviously, and study off me. That's great. I'm a teacher. I'm a master teacher. But in master teaching, we don't spoon feed you, right? So I'm really about new systems, new businesses coming onto the earth. And so with animals, yeah, somebody was asking me, can energy shapeshift into animals? Absolutely. And I'm going to give stories on this playlist when we get more into the mystical part. Right now, this is a real story. There's a real fox in my brother's neighborhood on July 4th, and it leads to the mysticalism. So maybe that's moving me forward. But in cats, my brother Michael shapeshifts into cats. The donkey, my father shapeshifts into. So these go into that type of energy on the other side. So when you're sitting beside an animal, first of all, animals are precious and very wise. And we need to teach our children again about that. This message is deep. It comes from trauma education, but it comes from real stories. And then it goes into what is the message at the end? Why did my ancestors or my angels or Mother Mary guide me to that video with Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk? And why did he mention the foxhole? Huh. This is how a healer pieces together spiritual messages. I'm not waiting for somebody to spoon feed me. I have to get it directly. And that means discipline. And that's what I'm going to talk about in a new playlist. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, but I guess I'll say it right here. I've been cleaning up and really realizing what was my resistance religion? A lot of stories. And I'm here to teach the Christians and the Catholics, if they want to, how to develop, to welcome in people more than keep them out. And it's not about, it's about less judgment. Because when I think about my life, especially in the last 17 years, I've lived a very sacred life in this life. Very little sin. And whatever I have, I've cleaned up. I had a lot to clean up in a past life, which I've done. But 17 years, I've dedicated my life to healing trauma, to helping people. I've worked with homeless. I've worked with shelters. I've given and I've given and I've given and I've given. But there was a time years ago and a time last year and the year before where I was struggling. And that's where that Candace and Charlie video came in. It was a messenger. I took notes in the last 2 years. You need to too. And so for me, when I started writing about religion, I realized my toolkit is the Holy Family. They've brought all the sacred sciences I work with. They're not new age stuff. They're not this, they're not that. And some of the labels are very, very corrupted. Like I think the qualifications of being in certain masterful lanes should be different, but I'm going to go break that down in the next playlist. I walk the walk. And now that everything is healed and my voice has clarity, I can talk the talk because I am being supported by the Holy Family. One thing is very, very clear. I'm going to read something, and I'm not going to quote anybody yet because I'm doing my discernment on a lot of things, but there's just something powerful to this video. Because the family failed to confront the trauma and the spiritual consequences of the event. This is both what happened to me at 8 years old and both what happened to me specifically 2 years ago and last year. We're talking about different tribes. A curse was perpetrated in the bloodline, granting Lucifer a foothold. Take that in for a while. Why am I saying that message with this whole fox story? Because when I think about the United States and the battle we're in between demonic and Christ, good and evil, and I think about how are we going to get a new administration, I realize that unless that person, male or female, has cleaned up their bloodline within them, they'll always be susceptible to some very serious issues that I'm actually not going to say right now because I don't always want to plant to the evil that's watching. So I realize it's not about how many degrees they have or how much they know or are they right or are they left? No, because if you have been sinning, it's very easy for the devil to take you over. And if your past life, your bloodline, if you sinned in past lives, it's very easy for them to take you over. And so the church has failed, in my opinion. And I know that's a strong stance, but actually all the pastor books that I'm reading right now pretty much say the same. 60% of our leaders in the church in America are doing witchcraft and have demonic energies. And luckily, they are going to people who are qualified and having them removed. And some of these pastors are not putting on a show online to get likes and followings because some business really does need to be done offline. That's when you really know the real deals. So when we sin and there's no repentance, there's no debt, there's no real process, you are leaving not only yourself vulnerable, you're leaving your future lives vulnerable, you're leaving all your children to carry that karmic debt. And these are things that I understood to some degree, but nobody was explaining them to me. And then I came across this one person, it was a coincidence, and I'm still going through deep dive work. But I'm very grateful because this particular book, he writes about a particular well-known person. And I really, in a past life, and I really believe that was me. And so as he's breaking things down, I was like, okay, this is a deep dive. July 4th, 2021 was the last July 4th I spent with my father. He passed away in 2022. My brother kind of carried on the tradition of my dad. You know, my dad loved community events. He loved going dancing, the dance club, card club, golf club, you name a club, he's in it. He's the one that comes with the energy and the smile that everybody loves. And I'm going to share some other things right now. My dad he wasn't doing well, actually, the last year and a half of his life. And my mom knew it. But she wasn't doing well either, and she was confused. And she would share subtle things with me. And I think she was hoping that I would teach him meditation again because he stopped doing all of that. And he was just like, I can't do it. You know, and he was really, I could see, like, it's interesting. My mom's demons came out in the beginning of my life, and my dad's demons came out at the end of his life. And my father was very popular in many tribe groups. He was known as the jokester. He loved to play jokes on people. Some of them were funny, some of them nobody got. But at the end of his life, he was silently suffering. He was thinking of stopping those groups, which was, you know, because he was sharing with my mom. And it's interesting. In my last video on the dogs, my mom starts to think about doing dog therapy with the male dog who has PTSD, which is representing my dad. And as she's trying to do these therapies with the dog, my dad is coming out. So watch that video and come back to this video. And he's starting to voice to her how he feels insecure around the male tribe, this one male tribe, which would break their heart because these men love my dad, like the Godfather. They saw him. But the truth is my dad had mask on. They didn't really know my dad. My dad was a healer. He was an energy healer. He was a heal. He could walk in a room. He was good. Like he had his issues, but he had an incredible heart. He was a good man. I mean, he was a guy, but he was a really good man. He had a lot of anger, but it was because of all the abuse and suppression. But he had masks on and he had insecurities. He had dyslexia. He had ADHD. And so did I. I've continued in the last couple months doing the ADHD Sacred Brain program, which is very, very important in our society right now. If you own a mental clinic, if you are a vice president, if you have power, hire me in to teach your staff that brain protocol. Seriously, hire me in right now, because that brain protocol has really pulled out the rest of my trauma in my body, mind, and soul. The one thing I will say as I'm studying religion, and I love things about the Catholic religion because of Mother Mary. I can't wait to have the money to buy a rosary again. I used to wear a rosary all day long. Mother Mary is somebody I work with all day long, and everybody in Pittsburgh who knew me knows that. And a lot of people were jealous of that connection. I think my mother was, even because she had the Jezebel, that demon in her. I have a lot to say about Mother Mary. And then there's things I love about the Christian religion. One thing I will say about Catholic religion is they study exorcists and they study it extensively and they train in it. And the Christian religions have to train in it extensively now. And I think there's a movement underground happening with that. And also the Catholic religion does a lot of psychology work. I think we need more trauma education, and I would like to bridge that into religion. So when I think about, so my dad was voicing how he's going to stop doing these groups, which would have devastated the men, right? And he was voicing very vulnerably to my mom that he felt dumb. Like he doesn't have, he's trouble reading. He had trouble in school. He had severe dyslexia and ADHD. And my father is not dumb. My father is extremely wise. But how we measure in this public school system is a disaster. They took the creative arts out. The creative arts is how I became a master of 8 sciences in the trauma work, where doctors and naturopaths and therapists were hiring me out of pocket. Yet, what do the mental health organizations, associations, the hospitalization, who do they have lecture? People with papers, no real experience. You think creative arts is just fun? No. Creative arts is a huge part of the Holy Family work that they don't even include in the Bible. I'm getting really passionate about this topic today. I feel Charlie Kirk's coming through hard and clear. Yeah. Whether you like the man or not, he's in this video, hardcore. So my dad was expressing like he can't contribute verbally. He doesn't know his opinions on certain things in the conversation. And honestly, people are talking down to him without realizing it because they have an academic degree, which is the story of my life. It's the story of my life with my family, disregarding my profession and asking questions. And They can complain all they want about the mental health crisis, but they do fundraisers to support those associations that will never even consider hiring somebody like me without the right piece of paper to come in and talk about sacred brain programs and how they need to be a part of our mental health. Every mental health teacher, there's nothing religious about them. There is PubMed research. You're not using any language, whether it's English or any language, but Sanskrit, which is the oldest language. And I have a lot more to say about that when I get into the religious New Age stuff. I felt that. The fox. So my dad goes over early that morning, July 4th. This is common. He's hyperactive, driving my brother crazy. Oh, like, we got to put the chairs out. We got to do this. We got to do that. He's all over the place. Sometimes he organizes games. What games are we going to play? How are we going to have? It's all because of love. When I was at my dad's funeral, I was exhausted. Nobody was there for me. That's the common theme in my life. Nobody, and that's part of Charlie's message with the Foxhole. Nobody shows up continuously to help me ever in physical form. I will say spiritual form. Mother Mary, Jesus Christ, Anna, Father Joseph, all showed up for me. But I'm talking about human beings. And so at the funeral, I was processing so many things. I felt like my body, I was just going to collapse. And I did collapse. My PTSD was horrific after that. There was no phone call. How are you doing with your father's death? I don't have a close friend. I don't have a close family member. It's been me on my own. And I've had to accept that. I've had to delete so many people who constantly have let me down by judging me constantly, instead of possibly judging the Jezebel demon, judging the church that didn't address the fact that I was almost choked to death, judging the doctors who over-medicated me from age 9 to 16. But no. So he's over, at my brother's house. This is common, for him. And he ends up, as people are gathering and, I'm over there, my brother ends up saying, I don't know where my lawnmower is. Dad hid it. He's like, almost like my dad has resorted back to like a 5-year-old playing tricks. And I look back and I see that ADHD in him. I see also the intuitiveness and the symbolic and the connectedness of him. So as much as sometimes I didn't understand his jokes, I still listened. Are we downplaying ADHD children because they have bloodline traumas? That haven't been fully healed, but they still have so much wisdom and intellect. My brother was like, he made this figure 8 in the front of the yard with the lawnmower. And my brother just was like, I don't understand. But I did immediately, because I studied numerology and I understood the power of the number 8. And I also knew that was the infinity symbol. The question, though, is, as I'm writing in the last week and a half, July 4th. Okay, that's a very symbolic day for America. And my dad's last July 4th, he gets a figure 8 in the front lawn of Affinity. What's this all mean, Dad? On the other side. See, when you don't study with a spiritual teacher, If you're just being spoon-fed what to think, and just superficial stuff, you never know the magic of how God is speaking to you, God Father is speaking to you, and Goddess Mother is speaking to you. You directly. That's what I did with my trauma clients. I had a lot of Christian, hardcore Christian religious women in my practice who were severely enraged and sick. And they thought everything that I did, because in the mainstream of it, was demonic. But because I actually worked with the Holy Family, a lot of that toolkit wasn't demonic. It was holy. So I never forgot that, because I took my dad seriously. Even though he didn't take himself seriously, he was extremely insecure and wounded, and I was too. And I was treated a lot like him in a lot of ways. A lot of patterns with the family system. Because I fit a role, and then they didn't see all the years of me rewiring my brain, of detoxing. I became celibate for 17 years, not because I don't love men, but because I was like, I'm going to clean out every sexual abuse that ever happened with me in my bloodline, which was a lot, because it came from slavery. There's a lot of rape in that. And I'm going to clean out, because I am not going to give my temple, my body, to any man unless I'm in the courtroom saying, I do marriage. Because I saw too many women in the trauma work. They slept with too many men, taking on their DNA, taking on their karma, taking on their demons. And so we have to clean all of that up. And that goes back to elementary school, by the way. How do we date again? How do we value God, Father God, Goddess, Mother Goddess? When I was going through these pastor books and breaking down, okay, I understand that, and I'm going through my own experiences, because I don't have to agree with everything they have to say. They haven't had a clean life like me. No judgment, but I know who I am. Yeah, I used to go to parties and this and that. I didn't have to drink to have fun. I had light and energy. My dad didn't drink much in this life. He has light and energy. It's called love. It's called passion. And people want it, but they would go after it in a demonic manner. They thought the money would create it. They thought the power would create it. They thought the girlfriend or the boyfriend would create it. No, it has to come inside. And so it didn't surprise me, once I started understanding my dad's past lives, that at one point he was a very, very high-ranking spiritual father. And because I respected my dad in that way, knowing it from, honestly, from all the meditation practice, I don't look down on servicemen. I don't look down on the homeless. I don't look down. I look equally at people. That night on July 4th, there was a small group left. And my brother, it's almost like a Bill Murray, almost like a groundhog. Was it Groundhog? No, it was that one movie with what's that one movie that he was obsessed with, like the squirrel or the beaver, or if you know the movie, put it in the comments. I forget that movie. It was Caddyshack. Caddyshack. We're sitting around, and all of a sudden my brother hears a sound. And he's like, the fox. And I'm like, now, after my brother initiated the fox, I actually saw a fox in the state of Pennsylvania. Like, so I know foxes exist, but I'd never seen a fox. But that he initiated the fox on July 4th. And my brother's we're a very theatrical family, all of us. And so he's like, and then he gets up and he's looking for where's that fox in the neighborhood? And everybody's kind of giggling at him because he's very theatrical. But you don't forget it. I was like, I mean, it wasn't like another animal that you're used to in the state of PA. Just like when I start bringing up the donkey stories, and then everybody in the neighborhood's visiting the donkey, by the way. So, and then that night, my one niece pulls up her keyboard and sings, she's singing some songs. And she sings a very symbolic song. And it makes me think about where's my life partner? Where's my husband? I wonder, is it, and so I left that night. There were very, very, very powerful symbolic messages. Now, if I had been overeating sugar or drinking a lot, I wouldn't have remembered any of that. If I wasn't trained to go within and understand that God's going to give me signals and symbols that I'm going to piece together the magic of life. There were so many people that sat across from me in my work that did tons of therapy and I'm not knocking all that stuff, but they knew so little about the symbols of what was going on in their everyday life. People criticize, I guess I can go into this. Well, no, it goes into, I'm going to go into it right now, but people criticize, I didn't really watch Candace and Charlie. I watched them, I think, a couple times in 2020. They came on my feed and I thought, wow, they're really good friends. That was my feedback. I wasn't really concerned about the political game they were trying to express. And then when all of this happened with Charlie, the first person I wanted to see was Candace's response. I actually made a comment underneath her video because I said, I hope before I pass away in this actual physical life, I experience one friend like you. I am gold. And boy, do I mean that more now than ever, seeing what she has done for her best friend. Why did that Foxhole video come up? What was it about? Well, I'm leading you to that. 2022, the beginning of it, my father was rushed to the emergency room. It didn't look good. I remember going to pick up some things for him, and I went into a specific store. I was looking for a stuffed animal for him to hold and think about me. Very childlike, very innocent, very pure from the heart. And as I was looking on the shelf, this really cute fox stood out. And I was like, oh, that's a really cute fox. I've never seen a fox before. I never wanted a fox. I used to have tons of stuffed animals. And I was like, I'm going to get him the fox. I was really excited about it. I remember going into the hospital. My brother was there at that moment. And I said, Dad, like I have some things for you. And I have this, and it's a stuffed animal fox. And he just like looks at me, the macho, tough guy, like, really? You got me a stuffed animal? Really? And I just kind of put it aside. And then as the weeks went on and he was abused and he was in severe pain and the trauma was coming out because he couldn't disassociate and be busy all the time, he slept holding that fox tight. He held on to that fox to the end of his life. And at the funeral home, in the casket, I know that the spirit, the energy of somebody moves on, and it has an energy to it. But I still wanted to keep the fox inside the casket. I did not want to take that energy home. I wanted to have it be in the realm of physical and spiritual, which is what a fox is about when I started to research it from a spiritual perspective. We have to heal both. We're so fixated on the physical because we're here right now. But we better be very concerned about the spiritual. And this is part of the aspect that the church, and honestly, I think a lot of the motivational speakers for the last 20, 30 years, it's great to be motivated. It's great to have a motivational talk, but we need to also have real talk and real tools about serious things that don't heal in a day always. Do I feel that Jesus Christ can heal anything? I actually do. But I also think there's consequences to severe abuse that has to be addressed. Or what happens is what we have right now. We have a lot of demonic energies running the show with a lot of money and power. That didn't happen overnight, and that's not a coincidence. And every system has to take responsibility for that. You know, there are people that have had great careers in certain things right now, and it comes because of what my skill set is, and they're not in the right career now. They're stuck. They're so used to being good at something or having this career, but they're actually stuck. They're not actually doing what I would call God or goddess, mother, father work. Hire me. 3-4 hours, we'll start to knock that through because you're circling here. Some people actually need to learn some more to get to a position to help create the systems. I've been learning to help because they are going to put me in a new career that's going to involve several different things. And so I needed to have new training and humble myself to do so and be disciplined enough to do so. That's one of my masteries in private coaching. And you may say, well, it's just easy. I'm good at this. And this is what I'm going to do. That's fine. But you may be then attacked, demonic, and you may actually lose everything at the end with your bloodline. Sorry. Probably not something you want to hear. So what's also interesting at the funeral is Mother Mary, Divine Mother, had me go to Franklin, Tennessee. And it was a pretty deep trip about a past life where I was a slave in the Civil War. And I was with one of the slave owners that I call Agent Confusion in my book series. It's not in book one yet, but I'm doing a lot of writing and analyzing a lot of things about my book series. So I mentioned that because at my dad's funeral, I picked out the casket, not because it was beige, but because it was called Franklin, which deals with the Civil War. And that is symbolic to my family system of cleanup. That is symbolic also to America. And so when this video came on my feed, I wasn't going to watch the whole 15 minutes. And I'm going to show you it if you want to watch it. I don't know this person. I'm not subscribed to her. I've never seen her before. From what I've seen, her videos get like from 100 to 900 views. So it's not like a channel, but this particular video got like 161,000 views. And this is the video that I saw. So there was a purpose behind it. So I want to just show you it. Okay, so let me just show you the video. Like I said, I don't know this person's work. I'm not subscribed. I'm not going to watch any more videos. I watched the first 5 minutes and that's all I needed to see about Charlie talking to Candace about loyalty, friendship. And I'll bring it up in 1 second. I just want to show you how this all works in real time. 15 minutes of Charlie and Candace laughing, true friendship. Okay. That's originally why I met them two, full circle, back in 2020, when the spiritual warfare on me was taking place and I wasn't educated on what that actually was. This is the channel. I don't know this person. I don't follow any of the videos. I don't really plan on it. But I wanted you to make it aware. Now, what he's saying with her in the first 5 minutes is loyalty is hard to find. Loyalty is hard to find. True friendship is really hard to find. When you're in a foxhole, he literally says that. You don't want the people around you or somebody saying, oh, there's no bullets coming. Everything's okay. No. You want somebody to say, get this. And that's what was devastating about the last 2 years. There were so many people aware that I was being severely spiritually attacked through spelling. And they did not come forward to help me. And I know I've never met these people. I know the whole list of people. And when I was getting ready to do this video today, obviously, I feel like Charlie came to visit me. I feel like he's come through in this video. And he said to me, because part of, and there's a lot more I want to share with this down the road. I cannot share it right now, but part of Charlie's death saved me. And I don't mean save me by finding Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think I found the fact that I have a deep connection to Jesus Christ, and I lost it from all the demonic energies, whether they were Christians, Catholics, or yogis, or New Age Reiki. It didn't matter. And my connection to Mother Mary is very authentic. What it saved me is I had to go into a past life personally. And I had to understand everything that happened that was a famous life that people in media got wrong. That's how it saved me. And it actually saved my bloodline, because if I had not cleaned all that out, it would affect my brother, it would affect my mother, it would affect my father, it would affect everybody. And maybe that's a conversation I'll have with Candace someday privately or on, I don't know. But what Charlie said to me today before I did this video is, you had so many people against you, actually all your life, and you still survived. And you thrived to some degree. You mastered this, you mastered that, you mastered this. Nobody was funding you. Nobody was helping you. You were in poverty at one point, but nobody could take what you had inside. They wanted your intellect, but they couldn't take it. You hid all your ideas. You only presented certain things. They wanted to take your heart. They wanted to destroy your heart. Love spells, death spells, you name it. Remote viewing you all day long. We have the list. The list went to spiritual council. Nobody gets away. Not one person So you can blame this person, you can blame this warlock, but there were so many side people who just watched. And that's what Candace has shown. And so that video is the conclusion of what I've learned. Who's going to be in the foxhole when the shit hits the fan in your life? Well, you better go to Jesus Christ first. You better go to Archangel Michael to protect you from demonic energies because they exist. And I would suggest tuning into Mother Mary for unconditional love. I would clean up your act. And so anyone can judge me, but have they looked in their own mirror? And what Charlie said to me today is, you are powerful. You don't need a million following like these men who tried to steal from you your identity. You are powerful because what you have is true discipline, true knowledge, true sacred heart. You have sacrificed for your bloodline, and don't think that they who have been in courts for literally 2 months haven't definitely cleaned up you for your future lives, for your next generation. But you don't let anyone come in from your past thinking they can just say they're sorry and cover up all the disrespect. They better do some serious shadow work and be ready for an honest communication. Because I am love, but unconditional love isn't just saying, and that's where I love these preachers, because the church just bypassed everything. Forgive and forget, forgive and forget. That is horrible advice, by the way. You can never forget your life, because if you do, somebody else is going to write it for you. And that what happened to me in a past life. They wrote out a storyline that was not accurate. And I know it now. Forgiving, yes. I didn't believe in justice because I didn't see any justice in my clients, in my life. But when January came and I hit rock bottom again, facing the reality of how I wanted to be a part of these tribes in a good way, and they only wanted what they wanted for themselves. They didn't give a crap about me. They blocked all my job opportunities. They blocked my money because that's all they could do. That's what slavery is. You can't take the heart of a lot of the women you enslaved in past lives. You cannot take their souls that you tried to enslave in past lives. And I am their voice in this life. And there will be higher conscious leaders and people who will put me on their stages. I won't have to audition. I won't have to qualify. It was like Jimmy Slide. Jimmy Slide just yanked me up on stage and he gave me a tap dancing career. And you know his payment? Everywhere I talk now, I talk about him. On the other side, people look him up. People know who he is. So those who think they're all high horse right now, I got away with almost murder. Yeah, whatever. I actually do believe in karma now because I saw it start to play out in January with people who screwed me over. It was a tribe here in Pittsburgh, a small tribe. And I thought, oh my God, that happened. That's karma. And then that's when I really surrendered. And I forgave everyone. And there's a long list. And I handed it over to the council. And I said, I just want my life, my dreams, my divine counterpartner. That's all I care about now. I don't watch anything. I'm reading a lot of books and enjoying it. I'm discerning and processing what matters to me. What are my dreams? A lot of my ancestors didn't even have that option because they were chained. all their life. What happens when they die? What happens when how do they heal that? So this whole connection of July 4th, my brother's picnic, my dad's infinity symbol, the fox that I bought him when he was dying in the hospital. The spiritual warfare that I went through after that, which was deep bloodline, which elevates everybody in my bloodline, whether they realize it or not. And the message that came through with Charlie and my father today is our connection is infinite. What you heal now frees the entire bloodline. This is a deep message. The shape-shifting cat and donkey is going to be very entertaining and playful. This was really deep today. I want to finish, though, by sharing that I am available to speak. I'm available to teach. My goal is to teach practitioners, to teach and associate. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if they're all corrupted. All I know is that I've got real lived experience personally and professionally. Living water is a huge thing. You know, I did watch an Aaron Brockovich video. I will mention the show. Sean Ryan had her on. Thank you for doing that, Sean Ryan. You probably don't have any clue who I am. And she spoke about the mothers, just the way I've spoken about the mothers in my water systems, testing water, educating, trying to get plumbers on board. The mothers speaking out. We have had success in the state of PA. Let's keep it up. No data centers being built. Thank you very much. Sacred land. Let's keep that going. Our leaders in each state need to clean up their bloodline in order to be effective, godly leaders. Maybe that's a message for my brother if he ever finds this video. My brother has the skill set to govern a state. I don't know if he wants to, but I think if he can clean up his karma and understand how to clean up the demonic energies that unfortunately are in him. It's an exorcist. You go to an exorcist. I don't know if there are many in Pittsburgh, PA, and I don't know if they're effective because, yeah, you got to go with somebody that has really been delivered to do this and has extensive, because everything that I'm researching, they're right. You have to sign a contract. You're going to need, this isn't going to be fun. Like it could be some sessions, not one session. It's layered. The more you know about your ancestral past lives, the easier it is. Oh, so that's not remember anything about our past lives. That has nothing to do with it. You know, the Billionaire Club talks about that. Freemasonry, you got to clean that up. Secret societies, you got to clean that up. Any divorce in past, you got to clean that up. Oh, they don't talk about that in church. Maybe that's why, right? I love the Holy Family. Like I said, I love parts of Catholic religion. I love parts of Christianity. I don't know where I fit in. Maybe I don't fit anywhere, but I know I'm church. I know I'm a teacher. I know I'm a good person. When I make a mistake, I apologize. I've had a lot of severe PTSD. I've had a lot of spell work done on me, especially in the last year and a half. I wasn't aware of it until my birthday last year in July when Anastasia came in. So I leave you if you're looking for a private coach, do a coaching session, healing session, you can contact me. I'm gonna be really frank with you though, you know, so if you have a lot of karma, a lot of demonic energies, So I'm really good with coaching people who know that they are supposed to be doing something else now. And they don't know what that toolkit is, or they don't know what the direction is, that the doors will open then to them. That speaks loud to me. I'd love to speak about animal wisdom. I'd love to share that ADHD brain protocol with an organization, a facility. The Holy Family Healing Toolkit, I'm going to start to talk about that in the playlist when I start to break down religion at New Age. And this does matter. I wrote some notes, so I'm going to write about this, because we can't just do earthly courts. We will never free our bloodlines. We'll never free this nation. We have to do heavenly courts, repentance, forgiveness, spiritual authority. We can't just go to church and sit there and be motivated and then sin all week. We can't just go to church and be motivated and then have demonic energies. These women who were amazing women, mothers who were Christians, had rage. Let's deal with the rage. Is it a demon? Is it trauma? Is it generational trauma? There are protocols and programs I'm not going to speak online about because of demonics. But I absolutely think that if somebody has a lot of money and they really want to help mental health, I do have a facility that has not been created. It could be a franchise. I will only share that if I come into meetings with you and I feel like you're the sacred person to make that happen. But there's a lot that needs to happen and change. People need to get uncomfortable. I have been very uncomfortable in the last couple of years to change, to heal, to really come into my authentic self. We are living in a time where sins, contracts, and unhealed trauma are stealing. They're stealing the freedom of families, communities, and entire nations. I came here to clean up my bloodline. I had no idea what that meant. It was really, really hard. There is always one person in a family system to do the hardest amount of work. And I chose to be that one. You might be that one too. And if you are, and you need counseling and guidance, hire me. Go to my website, go to my email. You're going to email contact me. The reason why, and I understand the people who are turned off by church, and that's why I'm going to do this new playlist. There's a lot to it though. I'm going to talk about new age stuff too. The reason why you're turned off is because of all the sinning. And I totally get it. So I think I'm going to add some clarity. Your church can be here, but understand that Jesus Christ was a master at fighting off all Archangel Michael, the demonic energies and evil. And I think I'm just going to go on this right now. I think I had such a deep connection to Mother Mary, such a deep, deep, all my work, you know. But I was sitting with, what is this thing? Like, I understand I would go to so many different churches and just not fit in because I saw people with horrific auras, politics, money, trauma. And I'm like, there's no toolkit here. Like, that's why in some of the motivational speakers, I don't get, like, they're not actually in the right lane that they're supposed to be in at this moment. Some of the ones that have been around the block, they're missing that. They have teachers too, still, even when you're 80, you know, and that could take them to a totally different level because they're not getting it. That's when you have ego deaths, you know? And so I was like, so if you're like against church, I get it. But what I'm going to say is that for me personally, I was like, what is this block with Jesus Christ? And I think it was sort of like my mom with the narcissist psycho, I'm fine. Jesus, blah, blah, blah. I'm fine. Jesus, blah, blah, blah. And it's the feeling forgive and forget, forgive and forget, forgive and forget. But never ask, like, how do we help you with your PTSD? How do we help you with your bills because you're shaking 8 hours a day? How do we help you? None of that. You do fundraisers for cancer, for fake pills, but you don't do fundraisers for somebody suffering and healing with severe childhood abuse. It's messed up. And so people get resisting. And so I had to work through this whole Jesus Christ thing. And, part of it too was, yeah, I do question some things in the Bible, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a Christian or a Catholic. It doesn't mean that I'm not a good person. And what I realized with Charlie is you're allowed to question things. You're allowed to doubt things. That you're actually living the holiest life. Why should you care if you're allowed to question the end of Jesus's life? You're allowed to have your own views on this, but nobody should judge you that you're not religious enough. They're all sinning all day long. You're actually not. I think the roles are reversed. And that's when I really tapped into Jesus Christ in an honest, pure way. And I say this to people who have severely been abused and have also been abused by the church. Psychology. I felt like maybe, I don't know how to put this. I felt like maybe Jesus Christ didn't love me in some way because I wasn't getting help. I was asking for help. And then what I realized, especially in the last month with all of the praying and meditation and fasting and reading, these people have demons in them. You were never the problem. Keep doing what you're doing. I've been praying for my neighborhood in the last 6 weeks, and I'm going to go into videos on that because there's been some healing stories with my neighbors. I've been praying for them to care about themselves more and to care about their neighbors more. I've been praying for them to care about their land more and care about each other more consistently. And I know a lot of the names and I know a lot of the problems, and I've been praying. It wasn't a coincidence that yesterday I ran into a new neighbor that I've seen out and about. We've seen each other, and he introduced, hey, I'm so-and-so. Hey, okay. I always thought he had good energy, good aura. And we talked for a little bit on the street. He's a Christian, but he doesn't go to church. He stopped going to church because he said, this is his words, I don't need a motivational talk. He said, I am a Christian. And he was talking about his dedication to his son who's having some, trouble in school, learning math. That's his focus right now, and this and that. And we were talking, he asked me, and he was really diving into what I was saying about who I am and what I do and communicating it. And at one point he said, I'm going to pray for you. And I said, thank you. I need prayers. Thank you so much. I've been in spiritual warfare for years, and you'd be shocked. I've asked a few Christians that I didn't know well, that were in my one business upline, this line, if they would pray for me, knowing that they follow Jesus Christ. And they were like, don't you know Jesus Christ? And I thought, what does that have to do with it? And he just looked at me and he said, I was in spiritual warfare too. And he said, I'm not going to pray for you just once. I'm going to pray for you every day because I see who you are and what you're doing, and we need you. And he said, you know, I keep a notebook, and when I meet strangers and people, I put their names and I pray for them. That's what I started doing. And he said, I don't tell anybody. I don't need any. It's me and God. I don't need to go to, it's me and God and me and mother. And mother is goddess to me. Mother Mary is goddess to me. She's goddess. She's sacred. And she brought out pieces of that in my grandmother, and pieces of that in Harriet Tubman, and pieces of that in the women in my bloodline. You know, they say you have particles of God in you. You know, this whole thing of the New Age movement. I'm God, I'm ego, I rule everything. That's not, there's particles of God in you, there's particles of, which is Father, there's particle of Goddess in you, which is Mother. And for me, it's Mother Mary. I sat with my dad in the last week, you know, Victim to Goddesses in my book. He introduced the word goddess. Goddess had to be healed because of a past life. Goddess had to be healed. And he says, who's goddess? And I'm like, what are you getting at? Who's your goddess? And then I thought about it, I was like, it's Mother Mary. She's the one I've been working with all my life. It's Mother, it's the Divine Mother. And it's what those mothers, those Christian mothers that were enraged and had so much trauma and so much unresolved issues. They wanted to be seen in a certain way and heard in a certain way. And I brought the goddess. I don't think a divine feminine is a bad thing. The divine feminine, divinity, the divine mother in them back. Now, the new age stuff is off. That's not actually not what I'm about. But we can honestly say now the religion stuff, some of that's off too. And so I was really grateful the other day. I was very happy. Because it's one thing, it's very vulnerable to ask people for help. And I've asked for help online for 2 years. I deleted a lot of the videos to clean up a lot of things. And nobody came in to help physically. I asked certain people, and people right away like judged me. But I kept asking, which is a vulnerability, you know, to have. But I was losing faith in humanity and humans. That's, I think, why I started to create the Animal Wisdom channel, because I think a lot of us do go to animals, dogs and cats. They're much more loving in some ways and much more appreciative. But meeting that neighbor that I'd run into here and there, but then having the real conversation, then he emailed me right away, and I was really grateful. I was really, really thankful, because I could tell it was genuine. There were no strings attached. And that's what Charlie's message is about. If you watch that video, if you have one friend in your life that's like the real deal, you're blessed. If you have one family member, if you have a partner you're married to, that you're blessed. Because I think we are living in a time where we're all having to clean up our generational traumas, whether we like it or not. So I am available for speaking engagements, storytelling, performance, sacred singing, workshops, and also for holy family healing practices. You know, there's a lot of simple things churches could restructure that could help with healing trauma. That's not breaking anything of what their rituals are. So thank you so much for tuning into the Heather Ann Ferri channel. Like always, I send you many blessings and unconditional love. Have a great day.